I need perspective on a situation that's tearing my family apart. My sister, 31F, and I, 28F, were raised by our stepmother and father after our birth mom left when I was 3 and my sister was 6. At first, we were both really resistant to having a new mom figure in our lives. I barely remembered our birth mom, but my sister had more memories and took it especially hard. Our stepmother Leanne came into our lives when I was 5. She was the most patient, loving person I've ever known. Instead of trying to replace our mom, she just focused on being there for us. She'd sit with my sister for hours, letting her talk about her feelings or just cry. She taught me to bake, starting with simple cookies and eventually moving up to elaborate cakes for our birthdays. She never missed a single dance recital, school play, or sports game. Over time, she became more of a mother to us than our birth mom ever was. Our birth mom would sometimes remember to call on birthdays or send a Christmas card, but Leanne was there for every skinned knee, every broken heart, every triumph and failure. She legally adopted us when I was 8, and it was one of the happiest days of my life. 5 years ago, we lost Leanne to breast cancer. The diagnosis came out of nowhere. She went from being completely healthy to stage 4 in what felt like the blink of an eye. She fought hard for 2 years, never losing her smile or her ability to make us feel loved. Even in her final days in hospice, she was more concerned about us than herself. During one of our last conversations, my sister and I were sitting with her, and we got to talking about future kids and family. Leanne told us how happy it made her to think about her grandchildren, even though she wouldn't get to meet them. That night, my sister and I stayed up late talking about how we wanted to honor her memory through our kids' names. We spent hours brainstorming different variations of her name. My sister suggested that since there were 2 of us, we could each use part of her name, Lee and Anne. She even helped me come up with Leanna as a potential name, saying it was perfect because it combined both parts while still being its own unique name. We made all these plans, talking about how our kids would grow up knowing about their amazing grandmother. Fast forward to now. My sister had her son 2 years ago and named him Lee. I thought it was beautiful, and I was so happy she found a way to honor our mom. When I got pregnant 4 months ago, I naturally went back to our original plan and decided on Leanna. I thought my sister would be thrilled that we were both keeping our mom's memory alive in our own ways. Instead, she completely flipped out. She said I was trying to steal her thunder and that it would be stupid for her kids to be named Lee and Anna, a name she apparently wants to use for a future daughter, with a cousin named Leanna. She claims she never helped me pick out the name Leanna and that I'm making up the whole conversation from years ago. The thing is, we're an extremely close family. My sister and I bought houses in the same neighborhood, just 3 streets apart. We have weekly family dinners, go on vacation together, and up until now, we've never had any major conflicts. Her husband James is like a brother to me. He and my husband play golf together every weekend. I'm Lee's godmother, and we were planning for my sister to be my baby's godmother too. Last week, things came to a head at our dad's birthday dinner. My sister brought up the name issue in front of everyone, including our grandparents and aunts. She started listing all these alternative names I could use, saying I was being selfish and trying to overshadow her son's special connection to our mom. When I reminded her about our conversation years ago and how she helped pick the name, she accused me of lying and trying to rewrite history. Our dad tried to mediate, suggesting that since Leanne meant so much to both of us, it was beautiful that we both wanted to honor her memory in our own ways. But my sister stormed out, saying I was trying to steal her special relationship with our mom. That hurt more than anything because Leanne loved us both equally. We both had unique bonds with her. My sister shared her love of gardening, while I inherited her passion for baking. Neither of us has more claim to her memory than the other. After a lot of thought and discussions with my husband, we decided to stick with our choice of Leanna. My husband pointed out that we announced it first, and it's not like we're using the exact same name as Lee. Plus, my sister isn't even pregnant yet, she's just planning for a hypothetical future daughter. Since then, my sister has been making increasingly hostile comments. Yesterday, we were shopping together at Target with Lee. He picked out a stuffed elephant, and when he accidentally dropped it in the parking lot, my sister snatched it up saying, "Be careful, buddy, she might want to steal that too, just like she's trying to steal everything else that's special to us." The whole interaction was bizarre and uncomfortable, and Lee looked confused by his mother's tone. I don't want to damage my relationship with my sister, but I also don't want to give up a name that means so much to me and that I've been planning to use for years. This isn't about trying to one-up her or steal anything, it's about honoring a woman who meant the world to both of us. Edit, for those asking about using Leanne's middle name instead, it was Karen, and for obvious reasons, neither of us wants to use that. Edit 2, several people have asked if we could use her maiden name, but it was Smith, which doesn't really work as a first name. Edit 3. To clarify, I'm currently 4 months pregnant. My sister has known about our name choice for about 6 weeks. She's not currently pregnant but says she and her husband are planning to start trying for another baby soon. Update 1 first, I want to thank everyone who commented on my original post. Reading through your responses made me realize I'm not crazy for wanting to stick with my choice, but the situation has gotten so much worse than I could have imagined. My sister has gone on a full campaign to turn our family against me. She's been calling all our relatives, telling them her version of events where I'm deliberately trying to overshadow Lee's connection to our mom. What hurts the most is how she's twisting our childhood memories to make it seem like I was always jealous of her relationship with Leanne. Last week, she told our Aunt Sarah that I was always competing for Leanne's attention when we were kids. The truth is, Leanne made sure to spend special one-on-one time with each of us. My sister had her gardening days, while I had my baking lessons. But now she's telling everyone that I used to deliberately mess up her garden projects to get Leanne to pay attention to me instead. That never happened. I was terrified of bugs and wouldn't even go near the garden. The situation really exploded when she made this long Facebook post about people who try to steal what's precious to others because they're jealous of special bonds. She didn't name me directly, but everyone knew who she meant. She wrote about how Lee is the only grandchild who will truly carry on Leanne's legacy because some people only want to use her name for attention. The comments section turned into a mess of relatives and friends taking sides, with people who don't even know the full story calling me selfish and cruel. What's really breaking my heart is how she's involving Lee in all this. Last Sunday at our regular family dinner at Dad's house, Lee came up to me crying. He asked me why I wanted to take his name away and if it meant I didn't love him anymore. I tried to explain that his cousin would have a different but similar name, and that I love him very much, but he's only 2 and doesn't understand. My sister just stood there watching, not saying anything to help clarify things for him. After seeing how upset Lee was, my husband suggested we try to resolve things over dinner at our house. We invited my sister and her husband James over, thinking a private conversation might help. I spent all day cooking her favorite lasagna recipe, the one Leanne taught me, hoping it might remind her of how our mom would want us to handle this. At first, things seemed okay. We talked about normal stuff, work, the weather, Lee's new preschool. Then my sister pulled out this thick folder. She had printed out pages and pages from baby name websites, complete with highlighted suggestions and sticky notes. She had this whole presentation prepared about alternative names that could honor Leanne, like Leah or Annie. When we politely declined, saying we had our heart set on Leanna, she started crying. That's when she dropped the bombshell: she's actually 6 weeks pregnant. She had been planning to announce it at Dad's retirement party next month, complete with a special reveal involving Lee wearing a Big Brother shirt. She said I must have somehow found out about her pregnancy and deliberately chose Leanna to ruin her plans for naming a future daughter Anna. I was completely blindsided. I had no idea she was pregnant. I told her this, but she wouldn't believe me. She started listing all these times I was at her house recently, suggesting I must have seen prenatal vitamins or overheard her on the phone with her doctor. The truth is, I haven't even been inside her house in over a month because of all this tension. James, who's usually the calm one, actually got upset with me too. He said they had been trying for another baby for months, and they had their heart set on Anna for a girl since before Lee was born. This was news to me. They never mentioned anything about future baby names before. My husband pointed out that we can't be expected to avoid names we didn't even know they wanted to use, but James said we should have asked them first since we knew they had already used part of Leanne's name. The dinner ended in complete chaos. My sister was crying so hard she could barely breathe, saying I had ruined everything: her pregnancy announcement, her name plans, even her memories of our mom. James had to practically carry her out. On their way to the car, she screamed that she would never forgive me for this. The next morning, James texted my husband saying we should reconsider our choice for the sake of family peace. He suggested we could use Leanne's maiden name, Smith, or pick something completely different. But at this point, I feel like giving in would just validate my sister's irrational behavior. Why should I have to give up a name I've loved for years just because she made plans without telling anyone? My dad called yesterday to tell me that my sister has uninvited us from his retirement party. She told him she couldn't handle seeing me right now and that if he wanted me there, she wouldn't come. He's devastated about having to choose between his daughters, and I told him to go ahead with the party without us. I don't want to ruin his special day. I'm trying to stay calm for the baby's sake, but this whole situation is causing me so much stress. My blood pressure was high at my last appointment, and my doctor warned me about keeping my stress levels down. My husband suggests going low contact for a while, but how do we do that when we live in the same neighborhood and share the same family and friends? Edit: several people have messaged asking if we could compromise by using Leanne's middle name. Again, it's Karen, so that's not happening. Edit 2. To those suggesting I'm the one being hormonal and overreacting, I haven't posted anything on social media, haven't called any relatives to complain, and am still attending family events despite the tension. I'm trying to handle this as maturely as possible. Update 2. I wasn't planning to post another update, but something happened that completely changed everything. Last weekend, Dad asked us to help him clean out the attic before he moves to his smaller retirement home. While sorting through old boxes, I found a worn envelope addressed to Dad from our birth mother, dated about a year after she left us. The letter was mostly about divorce proceedings, but there was a section that caught my eye. She wrote about her regrets, including never getting to use the name she had picked out for a daughter, Leanna. Apparently, she and Dad had fought about it when my sister was born because Dad's mother hated the name, thinking it sounded too made up. She ended up naming my sister after our grandmother instead. Finding this letter felt like a sign at first. I thought maybe this would help my sister see that the name has an even deeper family connection than just honoring Leanne. When I texted her about the letter, she demanded to see it immediately. I scanned and sent it to her, thinking this might finally help us move past the conflict. Instead, she completely lost it. She called me within minutes, screaming that I was pathetic enough to forge a letter just to justify stealing her naming plans. When I offered to show her the original letter, she said I probably practiced copying our birth mom's handwriting. She even accused Dad of being in on it, saying he'd do anything to take her side because he always favored me. I asked Dad about the letter, and he confirmed everything. He remembered the argument about the name, saying he felt guilty later about letting his mother's opinion influence their choice. When I told him about my sister's reaction, he called her himself to verify the letter was real. She hung up on him and blocked his number. The next day, she posted another Facebook rant, this time claiming that I was trying to erase Leanne's memory by pretending our birth mother had some special connection to the name. She wrote that it was convenient how I suddenly found this letter right when everyone was taking her side. Several relatives commented, saying I was being cruel by bringing our birth mother into this when Leanne was our real mom. What really shocked me was discovering how far my sister has gone to paint me as the villain. My cousin Emily called to tell me that my sister has been telling everyone a completely twisted version of our childhood. According to her, I was always jealous that Leanne came into our lives when my sister was old enough to remember our birth mom. She's claiming I spent years trying to compete with her for Leanne's attention, and now I'm trying to steal her special way of honoring mom's memory. The reality is so different. Yes, I was younger when Leanne adopted us, but that never caused any jealousy. If anything, I was grateful that my sister had those early memories of our birth mom because I had none. Leanne always made sure we both felt equally loved, and we had our own special bonds with her. Yesterday, my sister's husband James came to my house while she was at work. He looked uncomfortable and admitted that he's worried about her behavior. She's been having trouble sleeping, spending hours looking through old photo albums and crying about how I'm trying to rewrite our family history. He suggested that maybe the pregnancy hormones are making her more emotional, but this seems beyond normal pregnancy mood swings. The most painful part was learning that she's told Lee that his grandmother only visits him in his dreams because she loves him the most. She's been showing him old photos and telling him stories about how Leanne promised he would be her special grandson. None of this is true. Leanne passed away before any of us were even thinking about having kids. I'm 6 months pregnant now, and my doctor is concerned about my blood pressure. The stress of this situation isn't good for the baby. My husband is furious that my sister is causing so much drama during my pregnancy, but I just feel sad. We've lost not only our current relationship but also all our happy memories seem tainted now by her new version of events. Dad is heartbroken. He keeps saying that Leanne would be devastated to see her daughters fighting like this. He's probably right, but at this point, I don't see how we can fix this. My sister isn't just angry about a name anymore, she's completely rewritten our entire childhood in her mind. Edit. Many have asked about showing my sister old photos or videos to prove our good relationship. We have plenty, but she's now saying I was just pretending to be happy in them because I was jealous of her. Edit 2. For those suggesting I use our birth mom's letter as proof of prior claim to the name, that's not the point. I want to honor Leanne, not our birth mom. The letter just showed an interesting coincidence. Update 3. I wasn't going to update again, but so much has happened that I feel I need to share. My daughter Leanna was born 3 weeks ago after a difficult labor. The stress from all this family drama led to some complications, and I had to have an emergency C-section. My husband called my sister to let her know, thinking surely she'd want to know her niece had arrived safely, but she didn't respond. 2 days after we got home from the hospital, my sister's husband James brought Lee by to secretly meet his cousin. He said he did it while my sister was at her doctor's appointment because he didn't want Lee to grow up not knowing his cousin. Lee was excited to meet the baby and kept saying she was tiny and cute. It was bittersweet because he had to leave quickly before my sister found out where they'd been. Last weekend was my sister's gender reveal party. We weren't invited, but Dad told us she's having another boy. The whole Anna/and name issue that started this mess turned out to be irrelevant. You'd think this would make her realize how ridiculous this situation has become, but instead, she's doubled down. She announced at the party that they're naming the new baby Lee, yes, another variation of our mom's name. When Dad pointed out that this might be confusing with Lee and Lee, she said it doesn't matter because they won't be around their name-stealing cousin anyway. Several relatives who had previously defended her were apparently uncomfortable with this announcement, finally seeing how far she's taken this. The situation got even worse when Dad brought over some of Leanne's old things he found while moving. Among them was a journal where she had written letters to us about our future. In one entry from when I was 16, she wrote about how happy it made her that my sister and I were planning to honor her through our future children's names. She specifically mentioned how touching it was that we wanted to share her name between us. I wanted to show this to my sister as proof that our memories were real, that we had planned this together. Dad took the journal to her house, but she refused to read it. She accused him of helping me plant fake evidence and told him he was dead to her for choosing my side. She then blocked him on everything and told him he wouldn't be allowed to meet his new grandson unless he admitted to helping me lie. Dad was devastated. He broke down crying in my living room, saying he failed as a father because his children can't even be in the same room anymore. I try to comfort him, telling him none of this is his fault, but he just keeps saying Leanne would be so disappointed in all of us. I've decided to go completely no contact with my sister. Not just for my sake, but for my daughter's. I don't want Leanna growing up hearing that she's some kind of name thief or that her name represents something negative. I want her to know she was named out of love for an amazing grandmother who would have adored her. We're also planning to move. Being in the same neighborhood has become too difficult. Lee sometimes waves from their yard when we drive by, but my sister quickly pulls him inside. It breaks my heart, but I can't keep living like this. James still sends us pictures of Lee occasionally, always when my sister isn't around. He says he hopes someday she'll come around, but after everything that's happened, I'm not sure I want her to. Some bridges, once burned, can't be rebuilt. Final edit. Thank you for all the supportive messages. To those asking, yes, we're keeping all the evidence, the letter, journal, photos, safe in case Leanna ever wants to know the full story when she's older. Sometimes I look at the cake recipe book Leanne and I made together and wish I could share it with my sister again, but I guess some chapters of our lives have to end for new ones to begin.